The vast emptiness of space lit up with unusual energy signatures as massive ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Earth's defense systems, hidden beneath layers of secrecy, quietly tracked the incoming vessels while maintaining complete radio silence. Admiral Thomas stood at the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. Around him, the crew worked with practiced efficiency, their movements precise and controlled despite the extraordinary situation unfolding before them. Multiple contacts, sir. We count 37 capital ships and over 200 support vessels, reported the sensor officer, his voice steady despite the unprecedented scale of the alien fleet. The admiral nodded, his expression remaining neutral. Years of preparation had readied them for this moment. Earth had known about the Galactic Empire for decades, carefully gathering intelligence through hidden observation posts and automated probes. While the Empire thought they were making first contact, humanity had been studying them for years. The largest ship in the Imperial fleet, a massive vessel stretching 20 kilometers in length, moved forward. Its hull gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to absorb starlight. Smaller escort ships arranged themselves in a defensive formation that would have impressed anyone who hadn't studied Imperial tactics for years. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir," announced the communications officer. "The message is being automatically translated." The admiral gave a slight nod. "Let's hear what they have to say." A booming voice filled the command center, its tone dripping with authority and condescension. "Primitive world of Earth, this is Grand Admiral Robert of the Eternal Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen to receive the Empire's blessing. Submit to Imperial rule, and you shall be elevated to join our grand civilization." The crew exchanged knowing looks. The Empire's standard approach hadn't changed in centuries. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand submission, and either receive new subjects or make an example of those who refuse. Admiral Thomas took a moment before responding. "This is Earth Orbital Command. We acknowledge your presence, Grand Admiral. However, we must inform you that unauthorized military vessels in our solar system are in violation of Earth Defense Directive 7. A pause followed, longer than light lag could account for. When the Imperial response came, confusion was evident in the Grand Admiral's voice. "Your laws hold no authority over the Empire. Perhaps you fail to understand your situation. Our fleet carries enough firepower to reduce your civilization to ash." "We understand perfectly," Admiral Thomas replied, allowing a small smile to cross his face. "You have 1 hour to remove your fleet from our space. This is your only warning." The Imperial response was immediate and predictable. Several smaller vessels broke formation, moving aggressively toward Earth's orbit, their weapons charged, creating beautiful but deadly patterns of energy across their hulls. Director Kate's voice came through on a secure channel. "Intelligence confirms they're following standard Imperial intimidation protocols. They'll target an uninhabited area first, standard shock and awe tactics." Admiral Thomas watched calmly as the Imperial ships positioned themselves. Right on cue, they fired their main weapons. Brilliant beams of energy lanced toward Earth, aimed at the Sahara Desert. What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for centuries. The beams struck an invisible barrier 50,000 kilometers above Earth's surface. Instead of continuing toward their target, they seemed to splash across an enormous sphere of energy, creating spectacular ripples of light that illuminated the entire planet side of the shield. In the Imperial fleet, alarms blared as their sensors registered something impossible. Their energy weapons hadn't just been stopped. They had been completely absorbed. "Interesting," Admiral Thomas said, his voice carrying just a hint of amusement. "They actually thought we would leave our planet undefended." He opened a channel to the Imperial fleet. "Grand Admiral, that was ill-advised. Consider this a demonstration of why you should take our warnings seriously." The shield rippled again, but this time it released the absorbed energy in a perfectly controlled burst. The beam struck empty space exactly 1 kilometer from the Imperial ships, a warning shot of unprecedented precision. In the following silence, Admiral Thomas delivered Earth's message with calm authority. Your weapons are ineffective. Your tactics are known to us. Your presence is unwelcome. You have 53 minutes remaining to withdraw your fleet. We will not repeat this warning. The first contact had gone exactly as Earth had expected, poorly for the Empire. As the Imperial ships maintained their positions, likely trying to understand what had just happened, Earth's defense forces prepared for what they knew would come next. The real demonstration of power hadn't even begun. The Imperial command ship buzzed with frantic activity as analysts pored over the sensor data from their failed attack. Grand Admiral Robert paced the bridge, his face red with barely contained fury. Before him, holographic displays showed something that should have been impossible, detailed readouts of Earth's defensive shield technology. How did a primitive world develop this level of technology without our knowledge? He demanded, slamming his fist on a nearby console. His subordinates flinched, but one brave officer stepped forward. "Sir, we've detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's moon," the officer reported, bringing up new sensor data. "It appears to be some kind of observation post." The revelation hit the Imperial command like a physical blow. Hidden on Earth's moon, partially phased out of normal space-time, sat a massive complex of sensors and monitoring equipment. The Empire's pride had blinded them. They hadn't been making first contact at all. Earth had been watching them for years. Back on Earth's orbital defense station, Director Kate walked into the command center with a tablet displaying encrypted data. "Admiral, Imperial ships are attempting to scan our lunar facilities. Should we continue to let them?" Admiral Thomas nodded, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Let them see. It's time they understood who they're dealing with." The lunar base's cloaking field diminished gradually, revealing layer after layer of Earth's hidden technological achievements. The Empire's sensors revealed not just observation equipment, but also manufacturing facilities, research centers, and most shockingly, reversed-engineered versions of technologies from a dozen different alien civilizations. In the Imperial command ship, the Grand Admiral watched in growing horror as the truth became clear. "They've been studying us. All of us," he whispered. "Every species in the Empire." Earth's defensive capabilities suddenly made terrible sense. They hadn't developed their technology in isolation. They had observed, learned, and improved upon the achievements of countless civilizations. While the Empire had stagnated, comfortable in its perceived superiority, Earth had been quietly becoming something unprecedented. Admiral Thomas opened a channel to the Imperial fleet. "I see you've discovered our lunar facilities. Perhaps now you understand why your standard tactics won't work here. Earth didn't develop in isolation. We learned from watching others' mistakes." The Empire's response came in the form of a massive energy surge as their ships charged weapons. This time, they weren't aiming for Earth. They targeted the lunar base. Director Kate smiled as she watched their power readings spike. "Right on schedule," she murmured. "They always strike at what they don't understand." The Imperial fleet fired, their combined firepower enough to shatter a small moon. The energy beams struck the lunar surface and vanished. No explosion, no destruction, not even a mark on the dusty ground. "Impossible." The Grand Admiral's voice shook with rage and fear. "Where did the energy go?" His answer came moments later as Earth's lunar base began to glow. The absorbed energy was being channeled, redirected, and enhanced through systems that defied Imperial understanding. A network of satellites around Earth lit up in sequence, creating a web of power that encompassed the entire planet. "That was your second mistake," Admiral Thomas announced calmly. "Allow us to demonstrate what we've learned about energy conversion." A single pulse of energy shot from Earth's defense grid. It passed harmlessly through the Imperial fleet but disrupted every targeting system, every weapons platform, and every shield generator it touched. In seconds, the mighty Imperial armada found itself completely defenseless. "We could have destroyed your ships," Director Kate added, joining the transmission. "Instead, We disable them. Consider this a lesson in efficiency over brute force. The Imperial command fell silent as they realized their situation. Their mighty fleet, the pride of the Empire, had been rendered helpless by technology they couldn't even understand. Worse, Earth had done it without causing a single casualty. A show of mercy that, in Imperial culture, was more humiliating than any defeat. "You have 40 minutes remaining to withdraw," Admiral Thomas reminded them. "We suggest you use them wisely. The next demonstration won't be as gentle." As the Imperial fleet struggled to restore their systems, Earth's defenders watched with quiet satisfaction. Humanity's hidden strength had been revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial fleet hung motionless in space, their disabled systems slowly coming back online. Grand Admiral Roberts' face had turned from red to ashen gray as he received reports of the damage. Not a single weapon remained functional across his entire fleet. "All ships report. Main power restored to 60%, his second-in-command announced. "Weapons systems are rebooting, but shields remain offline." The Grand Admiral gripped his command chair tightly. In 3 centuries of Imperial expansion, no civilization had ever humiliated them like this. His orders from the Imperial throne were clear. Earth must be subjugated or destroyed. There was no middle ground. "Launch all fighters," he commanded. "Old-fashioned projectile weapons only. No energy weapons. They can't absorb what isn't energy-based." Thousands of small craft poured from the Imperial ships, their holds filled with physical missiles and projectiles. The Empire had not used such primitive weapons in centuries, but desperate times called for desperate measures. On Earth's orbital defense station, General Marcus joined Admiral Thomas at the command center. "They're adapting," he noted, watching the fighter swarm approach, "using kinetic weapons to bypass our energy absorption systems." "A logical response," Admiral Thomas agreed. "Time to show them why we kept our AI defense grid a secret." Deep in Earth's secure facilities, a quantum computer complex hummed to life. The AI Battle Coordination System, nicknamed Guardian, had been waiting for this moment. It had run millions of simulations of this exact scenario, perfecting its responses through countless iterations. The Imperial fighters moved in complex attack patterns, their formations designed to overwhelm any conventional defense system. They had no way of knowing they were flying straight into a trap centuries in the making. "Guardian is online," Director Kate announced. "All defensive platforms are under eye control." What happened next defied Imperial military doctrine. Thousands of small, spherical objects emerged from hidden positions around Earth's orbit. Each sphere was an autonomous defense unit, guided by Guardian's lightning-fast calculations. The Imperial fighters fired their first volley of missiles. In response, the defense spheres moved with impossible precision, creating geometric patterns in space. Every missile found itself trapped in a crossfire of gravitational fields, their trajectories altered with mathematical perfection. "Impossible," breathed the Imperial weapons officer, watching as their entire attack was neutralized without a single shot being fired. The missiles were caught in a complex dance of gravitational forces, their momentum bled away until they hung harmless in space. But Guardian wasn't finished. The defense spheres began to move again, this time engaging the fighters directly. They didn't fire weapons. They simply moved, their gravitational fields precisely calculated to disrupt the fighters' flight paths. Imperial pilots found their ships pulled in multiple directions at once. Carefully planned attack formations dissolved into chaos as fighters collided with each other, trapped in a web of overlapping gravitational fields. "Their entire fighter complement is neutralized," General Marcus reported, watching the disaster unfold. "No casualties. Guardian calculated the gravitational forces precisely enough to disable without destroying." The Grand Admiral watched in horror as his fighters were systematically herded into capture formations, their crews helpless to resist the invisible forces controlling their ships. Earth's message was clear. They could have destroyed the fighters, but chose not to. Admiral Thomas opened a channel to the Imperial fleet. "Your fighters are now under our control. Their crews will be unharmed and return to you once you begin your withdrawal. This is your final warning. The next attack will be met with lethal force. In the Imperial command ship, something snapped in the Grand Admiral's mind. Decades of Imperial doctrine and pride overwhelmed his judgment. Prepare the main fleet for direct assault, he ordered. Full power to engines. We'll overwhelm their defenses through sheer mass. His officers exchanged worried glances, but Imperial discipline held. The massive ships began to move forward, their engines straining at maximum power. On Earth, Admiral Thomas shook his head sadly. They never learn, he murmured. He turned to Director Kate. Initiate Defense Protocol Omega. Show them why Earth is no longer accepting Imperial visitors. As the Imperial fleet committed to their final, fatal mistake, Earth's true defensive capabilities prepared to reveal themselves. The Empire was about to learn why some planets are best left alone. Earth's United Council had gathered in their underground chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains. Representatives from every nation sat in concentric circles, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays showing the Imperial fleet's failed attacks. The time has come, announced the Council President, standing at the central podium. We've prepared for this moment for 50 years. The Empire has proven they won't accept our independence. We must make our position absolutely clear. Ambassador Lisa stepped forward, her diplomatic robes marking her as Earth's chosen voice to the galaxy. The Sovereignty Declaration is ready. All member nations have approved the final text. Above them, through layers of mountain and security systems, the Imperial fleet remained in attack position. Their previous losses had only hardened their resolve, exactly as Earth's psychological profiles had predicted. Admiral Thomas's voice came through the chamber speakers. The Imperial fleet is beginning another advance. Their power signatures suggest they've activated some form of ancient weapon system. Predictable. Director Kate commented from her position near the Council President. They always resort to forbidden weapons when conventional tactics fail. Shall we proceed with the no-entry protocol? The Council voted unanimously. Across the solar system, hidden installations sprang to life. Automated defense platforms, concealed within asteroids and camouflaged against the void of space, powered up their systems. Each platform contained technology reverse-engineered from a dozen alien civilizations, improved upon by human ingenuity. Ambassador Lisa stepped onto the transmission platform. Her image would be broadcast not just to the Imperial fleet, but to every communication system in their vast empire. Earth had infiltrated their networks long ago, waiting for this moment. "Attention, Galactic Empire," she began, her voice calm but firm. "For decades, we have watched your expansion. We have witnessed your subjugation of free worlds. We have learned from the mistakes of those who came before us. Today, that knowledge will be put to use." On her signal, the defense platforms activated. A web of quantum-entangled energy fields sprang up between them, creating a barrier that encompassed the entire solar system. The technology was unlike anything the Empire had encountered. It didn't just block entry, it redirected space itself. Earth and the Sol system are now declaring absolute sovereignty, Ambassador Lisa continued. Our borders are closed to Imperial ships, Imperial citizens, and Imperial influence of any kind. This is not a negotiation. This is a declaration. The Imperial fleet fired their ancient weapon, a device that could supposedly tear planets apart. The energy beam struck Earth's new barrier and vanished, not deflected, not absorbed, but completely removed from existence. "Your weapons cannot harm us," Ambassador Lisa explained, allowing a hint of steel to enter her voice. "Your ships cannot reach us. Your influence ends at our borders. This is humanity's response to Imperial aggression." The defense grid activated its second phase. Thousands of small probes launched from the platforms, each carrying a quantum beacon. They spread out along the border of the solar system, creating a permanent warning system that would alert Earth to any attempted incursion. In the council chamber, Director Kate watched the sensor readings with satisfaction. The grid is stable, she reported. "Quantum barriers are operating at full capacity. We are now officially isolated from Imperial space." Ambassador Lisa delivered the final part of Earth's message. "Let this be understood throughout the galaxy. Earth is not a prize to be won. We are not a resource to be exploited. We are humanity, and we choose to stand alone. Any attempt to violate our sovereignty will be met with force far beyond what you have witnessed today." The Imperial fleet hung motionless in space, their mighty weapons useless against technology they couldn't comprehend. Grand Admiral Robert watched in silence as his options disappeared one by one. "You have 1 hour to retreat beyond the quantum barrier," Ambassador Lisa concluded. "After that, the barrier will solidify. Any ships remaining inside will be permanently trapped between space-time corridors. Choose wisely." The council chamber erupted in applause as she finished. Humanity had made its stand. The message was clear. Earth was closed to the Empire, and nothing in their vast arsenal could change that fact. As the Imperial fleet began their withdrawal, Admiral Thomas allowed himself a small smile. This wasn't just a victory. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic politics. Earth had shown the galaxy that resistance was possible, and that lesson would have consequences far beyond their solar system. News of Earth's defiance spread through the Empire like wildfire. On the Imperial capital world, the High Council gathered in an emergency session, their usual pomp and ceremony forgotten in the face of unprecedented crisis. "Three fleets," roared one council member, his fist striking the ancient marble table. "Three of our most powerful fleets, utterly humiliated by a single world that wasn't even supposed to have space travel." The Imperial Palace's vast chamber, normally a place of structured order, had descended into chaos. Holographic displays showed the recordings of Earth's defense systems in action, each replay sending fresh waves of shock through the assembled leaders. Meanwhile, on the subjugated world of Proxima Ii, the local population watched smuggled broadcasts of Earth's resistance with growing interest. Workers in the Empire's massive mining operations began whispering among themselves, sharing stories of the small planet that dared to say no. "Did you see?" one worker whispered to another during their brief rest period. "They didn't just fight back. They closed their entire system. The Empire's ships can't even get near them anymore." The whispers grew into conversations, and conversations evolved into ideas. Deep in the minds of Proxima Ii, the first seeds of rebellion began to take root. Back in the Imperial Palace, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Reports flooded in from across the Empire's vast territories. Subject worlds were becoming restless, inspired by Earth's successful defiance. "We're losing control of the narrative," warned the Imperial Minister of Information, his usually confident voice shaking. "Every attempt to suppress the news of Earth's resistance only makes it spread faster." They're calling it the Earth Protocol, a blueprint for standing up to Imperial power. The Empire's military leadership faced their own crisis. Admiral Peter, commander of the Empire's most elite fleet, stood before the High Council trying to explain the unexplainable. "Their technology isn't just advanced," he reported, gesturing to the analysis of Earth's defensive systems. "It's as if they took everything we had and made it better. They've been watching us, learning from our mistakes, improving upon our designs. While we grew complacent, they grew stronger." On dozens of worlds, Imperial governors found themselves facing increasingly bold questions from their subjects. If Earth could resist, why couldn't they? The careful balance of power that had maintained Imperial control for centuries began to show its first cracks. In a secret meeting room beneath the Imperial Palace, the Empire's top military strategists gathered to discuss options. The hologram showed Earth's solar system, now completely encased in its quantum barrier. "We could try to duplicate their technology," one general suggested, but the others shook their heads. Earth's advances weren't just technological. They represented a fundamentally different approach to development and defense. Reports continued to flood in from across the galaxy. On the industrial world of Centauri Prime, factory workers began organizing slowdowns. In the agricultural sectors of the Outer Rim, farmers started holding back their harvests. Small acts of resistance, inspired by Earth's example, multiplied across the empire. The imperial crown prince paced in his private chambers, watching the feeds from various worlds. How did we miss this? He demanded of his advisors. How did we not see them preparing? But the answer was obvious. Imperial arrogance had blinded them. They had assumed that any civilization without an imperial presence must be primitive. Earth had used that assumption against them, preparing in secret while the empire looked down its nose at the primitive world. In the darker corners of imperial space, other species began their own covert research programs. If humans could develop such effective defenses, perhaps others could too. The age of unquestioned imperial supremacy was ending. The High Council's final session of the day ended in deadlock. They couldn't ignore Earth. Doing so would encourage others to follow its example. But they couldn't defeat Earth either. 3 failed attempts had proven that. As night fell on the imperial capital, the empire's leaders faced an uncomfortable truth. They had not just lost a military engagement, they had lost something far more precious, their aura of invincibility. In their protected solar system, Earth's leaders watched the growing chaos with careful attention. They had predicted this response, planned for it, even encouraged it. The Empire's greatest crisis wasn't military, it was philosophical. How could they maintain control when one small world had proven that resistance wasn't just possible, but successful? The Imperial fleet had gathered in numbers never before seen in the galaxy's history. 5,000 capital ships, 20,000 support vessels, and countless fighters filled the space near Earth's quantum barrier. The Empire had committed nearly half its total military strength to this final assault. Admiral Thomas stood calmly in Earth's command center, watching the massive buildup of forces. They're deploying in attack formation Delta, he noted, his voice carrying no trace of concern. Standard Imperial doctrine for overwhelming force. They still think numbers will make a difference, Director Kate added, shaking her head. Shall we show them our final defensive measure? The Imperial Supreme Commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. Primitive world of Earth, your defiance ends today. The combined might of the Imperial fleet will crush your barrier and remind the galaxy why the Empire cannot be challenged. In the underground command center, General Marcus activated Earth's battle computer. Guardian reports all systems ready. The Empire's attack plan has been predicted with 99.9% accuracy. The Imperial fleet began their assault. Thousands of energy beams struck Earth's quantum barrier simultaneously. The barrier flared with brilliant light, but held firm. The Empire's ships launched waves of experimental weapons, ancient devices, and forbidden technologies. Everything in their vast arsenal. Admiral Thomas waited patiently. When the Imperial barrage finally paused, he opened a channel to their fleet. Are you finished? Good. Now it's our turn. Earth's defensive grid activated its final protocol. The quantum barrier didn't just hold. It began to pulse with a strange rhythmic energy. Each pulse sent waves of quantum distortion through space, affecting the very fabric of reality around the Imperial ships. What's happening? Demanded the Imperial Supreme Commander as his ship systems began failing one by one. The quantum pulses weren't damaging their vessels. They were changing the laws of physics around them. Director Kate's voice carried across space, explaining with clinical precision. Your ships are now experiencing localized changes in fundamental forces. Gravity, electromagnetism, even the strong nuclear force, all adjusting according to our calculations. The Empire watched in horror as their mighty fleet began to drift helplessly. Without consistent physical laws to govern their operation, their advanced technology became useless. Weapons wouldn't fire, engines wouldn't burn, and shields couldn't form. This is humanity's final warning, Admiral Thomas announced. We didn't just build better weapons or stronger shields. We learned to control the very laws of nature within our space. You cannot defeat us because you cannot fight physics itself. To demonstrate their point, Earth's defense grid created a small bubble of altered spacetime. Inside it, several Imperial ships found themselves experiencing time at 1/10 normal speed. Their crews watched helplessly as the rest of the fleet moved in apparent fast motion around them. Broadcasting this demonstration across all Imperial frequencies, General Marcus reported, "Every world in the Empire will see what happens when they push us too far." The Imperial Supreme Commander, faced with the complete helplessness of his fleet, made one final desperate decision. He ordered his flagship to ram the quantum barrier at maximum speed. Predictable, Admiral Thomas sighed. As the massive Imperial vessel approached, the barrier simply shifted. The flagship passed through empty space, its momentum carrying it into a carefully calculated trajectory that brought it right back to its starting position. "Physics is not your ally here," Director Kate transmitted to the demoralized Imperial forces. "This is your last chance. Retreat now, or we will be forced to demonstrate the full extent of our capabilities." The Imperial fleet, their mighty weapons useless, and their ships at the mercy of Earth's control over local spacetime, finally began to withdraw. Their retreat was broadcast across the galaxy, showing every subject world that the mighty Empire could be defeated. As the last Imperial ship disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Thomas turned to his crew. "Send the final message," he ordered. Earth's quantum barrier pulsed one last time, sending a clear transmission to every corner of the Empire. "The Sol system is now permanently closed to Imperial forces. Any further attempts at invasion will result in the complete restructuring of spacetime around your fleet. You have been warned." The Empire's greatest fleet had been defeated not by weapons, but by humanity's mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. The galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after Earth's final confrontation with the Imperial fleet, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Imperial Palace, once the center of absolute power, now stood nearly empty as system after system declared independence. In Earth's diplomatic chamber, Ambassador Lisa reviewed reports from across former Imperial space. "Another 6 systems have formed their own coalition," she announced to the gathered council. "They're calling themselves the Free Worlds Alliance." Admiral Thomas, now serving as Earth's chief military advisor, nodded in approval. "And they're using defensive technologies based on our public blueprints. The simplified versions we released are enough to deter Imperial aggression." Earth had played its role perfectly. After defeating the Empire, they had strategically shared certain defensive technologies, not their most advanced systems, but enough to help other worlds protect themselves. The balance of power had shifted dramatically. "The Empire has lost control of 60% of its territory," Director Kate reported, bringing up a holographic map. "Not through warfare, but through simple refusal to comply. They can't force their will on worlds that can defend themselves." In the former Imperial capital, the High Council had been reduced to managing a fraction of their former territory. The Crown Prince, now effectively the Empire's ruler, had learned a harsh lesson in humility. His missives to Earth no longer contained demands, only requests for dialogue. The Empire's latest diplomatic note, Ambassador Lisa read aloud. "They're proposing a mutual defense treaty, not as rulers, but as equals." She allowed herself a small smile. "They're finally learning." Earth's strategy had worked better than anyone had expected. By demonstrating that resistance was possible, then providing other worlds with the means to protect themselves, they had changed the fundamental structure of galactic politics without firing a shot in anger. The underground factories beneath Earth's surface continued to produce defensive systems, not for Earth, but for export to newly independent worlds. Each system was carefully designed to protect without the ability to attack. Earth had no intention of replacing one empire with another. "Report from Proxima I," General Marcus announced. "Their new defensive grid is online." The Imperial garrison attempted to retake control of the mining facilities. They were denied entry to the system. Earth's influence spread not through conquest or coercion, but through example and assistance. The Earth Protocol had become a template for peaceful resistance across the galaxy. Worlds learned they didn't need massive fleets or powerful weapons. They just needed the ability to say no and make it stick. In Earth's orbital stations, representatives from dozens of newly independent worlds gathered to discuss the future. Earth had become known as the Empire Breaker, but more importantly, it had become a symbol of successful independence. The latest trade agreements are ready for review. Ambassador Lisa informed the Council. 23 independent systems want to establish direct commerce, bypassing imperial trade routes entirely. The Empire, unable to maintain its grip through force, found itself transforming. Without the ability to simply take what they wanted, they had to learn diplomacy, negotiation, and fair trade. The change was painful but inevitable. Admiral Thomas watched the latest sensor data showing peaceful trading vessels where battle fleets once roamed. "We didn't just break the Empire," he observed. "We forced them to evolve. Some of their worlds are even adopting democratic systems." Earth had achieved something unprecedented. They had changed the galaxy not through military might, but by proving that independence was possible and helping others achieve it. The quantum barrier around Sol remained, a constant reminder that some worlds choose to stand alone. Director Kate's final report of the day brought more good news. The Free Worlds Alliance has successfully repelled another Imperial probe. Their defensive systems worked perfectly. No casualties on either side. As the council session ended, Ambassador Lisa looked out at the stars visible through the station's observation dome. The galaxy was transforming, becoming something new. Earth had shown that power didn't have to mean conquest, that strength could be used to protect rather than dominate. The Empire wasn't destroyed. It had been transformed. The galaxy wasn't conquered, it was liberated. And Earth, the world that had changed everything, remained secure behind its quantum barrier, watching as its example sparked a peaceful revolution across the stars. The message was clear. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in conquering an empire, but in showing others they don't need to be conquered at all.